Welcome to the Champs App podcast. Champs App is your recruiting and development co-pilot. If you are a player, parent, or coach, make sure to check out more content and tools to help navigate the world of youth hockey at champs.app. Also, if you've listened to the Champs App podcast in the past and it has helped you with your recruiting or hockey development, please tell your teammates and friends about Champs App. It would be even better if you subscribe to the podcast and review or rate us on whichever platform you're listening to or watching us on. On today's episode, we talk with Abby Ostrom, head coach of the Suffolk University women's hockey team. We discuss her being a dual sport college athlete, her coaching journey in D1 and D3 hockey, the academic and hockey experience at Suffolk, and Abby gives her insights on the current D3 recruiting dynamics. This was a great conversation with Abby, so please enjoy. Hopefully by now you've heard of ChampsEyeQ, our hockey video analysis service designed to give players and families honest, objective feedback on where a player's game truly is today. I want to take a moment to explain how it works and, more importantly, why it's been so impactful, because honestly, we've been blown away by how consistently positive the feedback has been from parents and players after they receive their reports. Several families have already used ChampsEyeQ multiple times this season. One parent summed it up perfectly. The analysis report itself was impressive, far exceeding my expectations or the perceived value from the website. It provides an honest and detailed assessment of the player, which is incredibly useful for identifying strengths and weaknesses. ChampsEyeQ is built for both boys and girls, skaters, and goalies. Players submit at least 10 minutes of edited game footage, and our expert analysts deliver a data-driven evaluation across more than 15 key attributes. Every report includes an overall rating, a projection of NCAA Division I potential, and most importantly, clear, actionable development priorities so players know exactly what to work on next. We hear this from a lot of parents. I thought I knew where my player was at, but this helped me truly understand where they need to improve. That clarity is what makes ChampsEyeQ different. Now, we know video editing can feel intimidating at first. You can absolutely edit the video yourself, and we have step-by-step guides on Champs app to help. And if you use services like LiveBarn or the Prospect Exchange, those tools can make preparing your submission fast and easy. The submission guidelines may look detailed, but once you see an example, it's very straightforward. If you want to try ChampsEyeQ, you can use coupon code ChampsEyeQ10. That's EYEQ10 for 10% off your submission. Just head to champseyeq.com or visit Champs app and submit your player's video today. I'm excited to welcome to the podcast Abby Ostrom, head coach of the Suffolk Rams women's ice hockey program. Originally from Carlisle, Massachusetts, Abby attended Loomis Chaffee in Connecticut before playing collegiate hockey at Trinity College in the NESCAC, where she also competed on the softball team. After her playing career, she began her coaching and operations path at Skidmore College, then returned to Trinity for 4 years as an assistant coach. Later, Abby spent 3 years at Boston University as director of operations before serving as an assistant coach. She is currently in her 3rd year as head coach at Suffolk University. Welcome to the podcast, Abby.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Hey, why don't we start you off like we do all of our coaches, telling us about how you started playing hockey in Carlisle, Massachusetts, and your love and passion for both hockey, and I guess we're also going to talk a little bit about softball.
All right, sounds good. Thank you for having me. First off, appreciate it. Excited to be here. Probably pretty typical to some other stories that you've heard of women who are now coaching, but growing up, I wanted to do everything that my brother did. So that was hockey for me. He played hockey growing up, so I wanted to do everything he did and follow in his footsteps there. So went through the youth program at Concord Carlisle Youth Hockey. Played boys all the way through, honestly, and through high school summers. Played for Assabet, played for the Minuteman Lady Flames back in the day, and then went to Loomis, as you mentioned.
Got it. So how come you didn't end up as a goalie if your brother was playing hockey in front of you? Because usually that's what happens. They throw the little sister in net.
I tried, but my mom had other opinions on it. So didn't want to put me in that position. Early on, I probably like U10 when I was with Assabet, I went up to Toronto, Brampton, played in a tournament and played goal, and had some success. And then after that, it was like, yeah, I think we're gonna stick you on forward and keep you there for a while. So.
Got it. So you played boys hockey. Did you also play baseball with the boys? And when did you start playing softball?
Yeah, kind of similarly. I played baseball all the way through high school, pretty much, again, going back to like baseball over the summer and stuff like that. But I played baseball all the way, and then I started softball at U12. I played 1 year of rec softball for my league, for my like town team. But it wasn't the best competition. So I went to travel after that and played travel with the Concord Raiders organization in Concord, Mass through my entire like club career.
Got it. And do you think that playing both sports at the same time helped the other sport?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's where like some of that early specialization that we talk about as coaches and administrators now comes into play. Um, there's obviously like the cross training aspect of it where you get to work different muscles and get different habits based on different things. One of the easy things that I equate, like you receive a pass just very similarly to how you would bunt a ball, right? So I think I was a really good bunter because I had so many reps at receiving passes. Um, and then it also goes into play is like the mental health part of it too. And I help out with our softball team at Suffolk a little bit. And for me, it's more like mental health related than it is anything else. It's time away from the rink. It's time outside. It's time with different people, getting to know different cultures, different people from different walks of life, all that good stuff.
Got it. Got it. So, how did you decide? When you're at New England prep school, I'm assuming you played obviously multiple sports there. Actually,
Yep.
while we're on the topic, what was your third sport? Because obviously
Field
you played
hockey.
softball and hockey, so it's field
Yeah.
hockey. Okay,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
And did you consider playing three sports in college?
Uh, the Trinity field hockey coach asked me once, and I think I was just like, two's good. Yeah, yeah. Stick with the two, leave the third one there. I was a decent field hockey player, but I didn't have a lot of passion in it. So, just stuck with hockey and softball for college.
Okay, got it. So, how did you make the choice about where to go to college, and how did you prioritize one sport or the other? And did you consider playing D1 in either sport?
Hmm.
And what are all the considerations that you went through in ending
Yeah.
up at Trinity?
Yeah, obviously it was like I put it back like it was a family decision at that time, and something that like we thought a lot about as a group. Obviously, I had my own opinions on it too, but for me, the most important thing was like a high academic school. I looked at certain schools, no matter if hockey or softball was like the main reason to go there or not. Obviously, like the recruiting trail had its own momentum and pieces as a part of it too. But the biggest piece was probably the academic piece. That narrowed down my list pretty quickly. And then on top of that, it was like, okay, where can I play? So I was looking at some Division I schools to play just hockey, and then ultimately it was between a Division I school just for hockey and a couple of the NESCAC schools where I would be able to play both. So I ended up going early decision to Trinity back in the day, to play both ice hockey and softball.
Gotcha. And what makes the NESCAC school special from an academic and an athletic perspective?
I mean, they advertise themselves as little Ivies, academically rigorous liberal arts schools. So you don't necessarily like specialize in business or anything like that. So, from a NESCAC standpoint, I would say that their big advertisement is you're going to become a good reader, a good writer, a good communicator, and a thinker, right? So, more just to kind of lay down that foundation and set you up for success long term to be a well-rounded human.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, we need to keep moving down your
Yeah.
athletic career into your coaching
Yeah.
career. I do have one question about your time on the hockey team, which is how come you only played six
Yep.
games in your first year at Trinity?
Um, that's a great question. I think I just had some like adversity in terms of I came into a team that had a really strong foundation. We had 8 seniors my freshman year. We had Kim Weiss and Laura Comerica, who are both All Americans and really solidified players. And I think from my standpoint, the speed of the game was a little bit quicker, and I was asked to play defense. So for me, a lot of it was just trying to like figure out the position of it and how to hang it at Division III as a defender. Um, and then in large part, we had a big roster. And so like that's where some of those trials and tribulations as a freshman come into play, and making sure that you're sticking with the process and not just picking a school because you like the hockey team, picking the school because you want to be there and be a part of something bigger than yourself.
Gotcha. Was that a surprise that like the level of play and the ice time that you were receiving was different than basically being a full-time player?
Yeah, I would say it was a surprise. But to the same extent, I mean, I was going against some like really high-end talent in practice, which was really fun. And so when I saw success in practice, I knew that like the process was working. I was doing the right things. I was scoring goals. I was making good passes. And I think ultimately, like my teammates appreciated and saw that. And so that's where kind of like my relationship with them came into play on just being a good teammate and like looking out for each other. So yeah, it was definitely a surprise. God, I'm gonna blank on her name. But she was like one of the fastest players to this date that I've D1, D3, anything that I've ever played against. Just like flew like the wind, and was especially as a forward training as a defenseman was just something that I was not used to.
Got it. Did you ever reconsider your decision? Like, did you ever think about, hey, maybe this isn't right for me? Because you stuck it out for 4 years. I'm just
Yeah.
curious. At the end of your first year, did you say, maybe I shouldn't be playing hockey. Maybe I should just focus on softball, or maybe I should look at a different school.
I think like it's natural to have those moments because again, like your surprise and your expectations are different than reality. But to the same extent, I was raised in a little bit of a different era where like giving up on opportunities like that wasn't really an option, so to speak. I also knew that like there would be spots opening the next year basically just from graduation. And so I was doing, again, I'll go back to like the piece of it. I was starting to execute pretty consistently in practice. I was seeing, like when I was dressed for those 6 games, it wasn't like I rode the bench, like I played in those 6 games. So I could see some success there. And then I was pretty tight with my assistant coach at that time, who was really good about doing video with me. So if I played, I would do video on myself. And then if I didn't play, I would like pick one of my teammates and try to watch what she was doing to emulate some of that stuff. So I think obviously like, long term it paid off. And yeah, I just learned different styles, learned different ways to kind of keep myself going, and do what was best for myself, for the team, whatever was needed, kind of a thing.
Perfect. All right. I didn't expect to go down that branch with the 6 games, but that was
Yeah.
very insightful and very
Yeah.
helpful. Tired of spending hours emailing coaches with no idea if they're even reading your messages? Champs App messaging is the fast, easy way to send personalized, error-free emails and know exactly when they've been opened. The coach's name, school, and email are automatically populated for you, so every message is accurate and complete. Choose from smart templates that pull your details directly from your Champs App profile, whether you're sharing your schedule or a new video. Cut your email time in half and finally see which teams are showing interest. One parent told us, what used to take a whole evening now takes under 2 hours. Champs App messaging. Faster, smarter recruiting. Made easy. All right. So maybe just talk about how you decided to get into coaching. Obviously, you kept with both hockey and softball when you went to Skidmore. And then how did you eventually pick hockey over softball?
Yeah. So when I was at Trinity as an undergrad, every summer I went home, I coached for the Concord Raiders softball team that I grew up playing for. So coaching for me was kind of what I wanted to do after college. And when I went to Skidmore, and I mean, if you looked at my stats, no matter what, like my softball stats are a lot better than my hockey stats, especially from like a NESCAC standpoint. So I went down the route of being a softball assistant coach at Skidmore, and just to kind of make extra money, I reached out to Neil Sinclair, who is the head coach of the men's team at Skidmore, to see if they needed any help. And he didn't have full-time help, so I think he was just happy to have me around and do some statistical work and some operations work for his men's team. And ultimately, that's kind of what got me back into coaching hockey. He was like, if you want to really do this, you should go to National Development Camp, and be an intern coach there. So you should apply and look into it. So I did that and haven't looked back, basically.
Gotcha. All right. So then you went back to Trinity as an assistant coach in hockey.
Yep.
And then how did Brian DeRoche convince you to come over to BU? And then you now are part of his coaching tree, which
Yeah, I think
continues
I
to
convinced
expand.
him more than anything, but,
Okay.
um, so my 4th s going into my 4th summer at Trinity, I had just finished my master's degree in public policy and law at Trinity. And so I was kind of like ready to look into that next step. And so there's this program for women's NCAA coaches called We Coach, and it's out in Colorado. And it's basically 4 days of basically development for women's coaches in all of NCAA sports and divisions. So there was Division 1 basketball coaches there, and there were, Division 3 women's ice hockey coaches there, right? So in my time there, there were only two other hockey coaches involved in that clinic. One was Tori Amoff, who was the head coach at Stevenson, and the other one was Liz Key Norton, who was the associate head coach at BU. And so when I was there, I was kind of just having a conversation with her about like next steps. And she was like, well, would you be interested in ops? Like our ops director might leave. And so that would open a vacancy. And I was like, "Ooh, I don't know. Like my mom went to BC, so I don't know if I can go to BU." But ultimately, obviously, I worked their BU's camp that summer. After getting in touch with Liz a couple more times and kind of talking through things, ultimately applied for it and was offered it by Coach DeRocher,
Gotcha.
Coach Brian.
Okay. So obviously, he's a great mentor. I know he's really taught lots of people, including like Tara
Mhm.
Watchorn and
Yeah.
Kristen Matthews Mead and all these
Oh,
other
the list
people
goes
about
on and on.
those.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Kumi,
Katie LaChapelle.
LaChapelle. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously, the coaching tree is quite broad and long, and
Yeah.
obviously that helped prepare you for going to Suffolk. Maybe just talk about how you ended up there.
Yeah, I mean, that whole experience at BU is something I'll never take for granted. My first 2 years there, obviously, I worked with Brian all four, so him as a leader is one thing, but I was also obviously able to work with Tara, who's the head coach at BU now, and then Liz, who's now at Milton, but had a stint at Dartmouth. And so at that time, Tara and Liz were both respectively the U18 head coaches for Team Canada and US. And so just from like a day-to-day perspective, I knew going into BU I wanted to be a coach and I wanted to be a Division 3 head coach. So for me, like the ops part was important because it was my job. But everyone there knew that my ultimate goal was to be a coach. And so I went in and just tried to learn as much as possible. I mean, I think all three of them in large part for where I'm at right now because they just love talking hockey. So, I mean, we would talk hockey all the time, talk through different situations, through different systems, and everything like that. And then obviously Tara and Liz left and got to know Kirsten a bit and um a very different kind of coach from Liz and Tara, and obviously in good ways. So to be able to learn from another, ex head coach, um, now associate head coach, who had success at Saint a lot of success at Saint A's. It was just cool to kind of again like learn from everyone there and take what I needed to and try to apply it here.
Got it. Got it. All right. Let's talk about Suffolk finally.
Yeah.
All right. So
Suffolk.
located
Yeah.
right in the heart of Boston,
Yep.
Massachusetts.
Yep.
And tell us a little bit about the school. What I understand from a little bit of research is that it's really focused on experiential learning
Yep.
because of the close ties to the Boston market. That you help students like gain practical experience with internships and real world projects.
Yep.
Maybe just talk about the school and obviously the fabulous location. Although, from what I could tell, you have a little bit of a drive to get to the rink near the
Yep.
airport and
Yep.
coming back across the
You
bridge.
got it.
So
Yeah, I'll dive into that too. But yeah, obviously Suffolk's right in downtown Boston. So all of our buildings are right around the Boston Commons. We're a short walk to like the financial district, to the seaport, to the north end, and we're pretty much located right in Beacon Hill. From a location standpoint, like I don't again, if you want to go to school in the city, I don't think you can beat it. Boston's got a reputation of its own, being one of the best schools to or best cities to go to school in. And so that alone is why I've been able to kind of have some success recruiting wise. From a school standpoint, I think you know hit the nail on the head there. Very big into experiential learning. Obviously, we're known, especially regionally, for our law school. And so we have a pretty good 3+3 program for undergrad and law school. Granted, you do all the right things in your undergraduate career, but so that's a big ticket item for us. And then obviously, you know, we have a nice business school and some science programs to back it too. So there's a ton of different options, which is really nice. You know, we're from a business standpoint, like our business school looks like a Fortune 500 company. Like you walk in, there's frosted glass. Professors are in like offices that look like you're in a Fortune 500 company. There are cubicles to go do work in, things like that. So the whole thought process on that is if you're in that environment as an undergrad, once you get to it in your real life job, you won't be so kind of like inundated by the experience. You're ready to go, you're used to it, and you can kind of hit the ground running. Um, and then
Facilities for
yeah,
hockey and things like that.
yeah, so from a facility standpoint, like I mean, our buildings in Boston are beautiful. So that's easy to say. You've got a nice picture of our rink behind you. So it's a little bit cold, but otherwise, we treat it as home. We've got a really nice setup in here, and the rink staff treats us really well. So we have access to ice as much as we need it. We have our own locker room. We use kind of the like main lobby as our meeting space, as our video space, and everything like that. We have storage and laundry, all that. Yeah, all that really fun stuff over here as well. So,
Gotcha. That's Palazzo Arena, if I'm pronouncing it
yep,
properly.
you got
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like
And
a
how
10-minute
far? Right.
drive.
Thank
So
you.
it's really, yeah, it's not that far. And from a transportation standpoint, we have really cool 14 passenger vans that our captains drive over um, to facilitate that mode of transportation.
Gotcha. All right. So let's get to the hockey side of things.
Mhm.
So you play in the Conference of New England, but you also
Yep.
play a lot of the NESCAC schools, from what I could tell
Yeah.
from your schedule. Maybe just talking about that and just what your regular season is like.
Yeah, so regular season, I mean, our league I think is getting better and better every year, which is really fun. I didn't really have that expectation coming here, so that's been really cool to see the growth of our league, especially. And we add Salve back to it next year. So, and then we add Roger Williams, who's adding their own program. So we'll be at 9 teams next year, which is really cool and fun to be a part of. Every night for us is a battle, and that's kind of how we want it. From my standpoint, I have obviously an appreciation for the NESCAC, having gone there and coached there. I know a lot of those coaches fairly well, and they usually do pretty well in postseason. So my whole kind of thought process with that is to be the best, you got to play the best. And at least regionally, they're usually in that conversation. So, you know, we've already played Trinity this year. I mean, our January is a gauntlet, but we play Con, Bowdoin, Middlebury, Endicott, Colby, and then Plattsburgh for two. So those 7 games will be good tests for us, and yeah, make us realize really where we're at.
Gotcha. What's your perspective on the number of games that you play compared to the D1? Obviously, you saw it at BU that you're playing in the mid 30s,
Yep,
but obviously D3, you've experienced it firsthand. You're depending on how far you go in the playoffs, you're playing roughly 25 to 28 games per season.
yep.
So, what's your
Um,
perspective?
yeah, I mean, quite honestly, I like it. I think 25 is a good number. And the reason I say that is it opens opportunities for things like being a two-sport athlete. Or and again, like depending on what season you're really looking at, like you could play soccer in the fall and still make it in time for most of the hockey season. And then obviously conversely, you play your whole hockey season and then want to play softball or lacrosse in the spring. And that's still very doable. So from that perspective, I think it's good. I like kind of where our calendar's at and having those 8 non-traditional days, and then a solid start basically for games on November 1st, somewhere around there. So, we had the last 3 weeks off. I thought that felt a little bit long, especially going into a weekend with Con and Bowdoin, but hopefully we kind of use this week wisely and get back on track pretty quickly.
Gotcha. When you say con, you mean Connecticut College, just so
Yes,
folks know what
Connecticut
you're talking
College.
about.
Sorry, yeah, not
Yeah,
UConn.
you're shorthand. Sorry, I need to ask this. So, how many players on your team are multi-sport athletes?
Ooh, think I have 4 right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you do have a few who do play, and I'm
Yeah.
assuming they're playing spring sports. Is that
I
correct?
had one that did golf in the fall.
Okay.
So
Nice.
yeah, I had a golfer. And then I'll have 2 softball and 1 lacrosse.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So for folks who don't understand, the nuances between D1 and D3 and how tuition and scholarships work, maybe just talk about, does hockey help get into Suffolk, and how do scholarships work, academic? Obviously, there's
Yeah.
probably not any athletic money, but whatever else
Yeah.
folks can do in terms of financial aid. How does
Yeah.
that all work at your
Yeah.
school?
So yeah, we have obviously our cost of tuition is what it is. And then we have merit aid scholarships. So for us, we actually just repackaged all that and got a new company to do it. So right now they're up to $27,000 off the top based off your academic performance in high school. That's like a sliding scale and range based off how you do. And then other than that, it would be all government FAFSA. So those 2 things are stackable. Um, and yeah, obviously the better you do in high school, the more money you would be awarded from a merit scholarship standpoint.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So so now folks know, like how much it's going to cost, and
Yeah.
get the perspective on it, and they can go look up the numbers online, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get back to hockey for a second. Like, how much practice time do you actually have, and then like how do you fit into that, like special teams work and things like that? Because you're probably limited in the amount of actual practice time you get per week.
Yeah. Yes and no. I think we're pretty fortunate in that we kind of get like the use of the ice when we want it, especially in the mornings, which is nice. We're gonna try a different schedule out this spring to try to accommodate our science majors a little bit more because they have labs in the afternoon for the most part. So we have the ice 8 to 10 a.m. every morning. And yeah, we'll just make do. Usually we'll only go for an hour, something like that, depending on where we are in the week. Um, that being said, Monday of this past week was our first Monday back in 3 weeks. So we went for an hour and 45 minutes. Yesterday we went boxing and then we skated for an hour. Today we skated for about an hour and 15. And so to kind of like blend our special teams in there, honestly, like I think special teams are important. So for me, that's pretty easy. We spend quite a bit of time on those. I would say like 3 days a week, we're working on special teams in some facet because again, if you looked at our penalty numbers, we have to. But yeah, I mean, we had goalie world this morning, or this afternoon, right at noon. So from basically 12 to 12:20, we had goalie world. So I sent 4 shooters down with him, with our goalie coach Cam Walsh. And then from 12 to 12:20, I took the power play and penalty kill units and just did half ice with them. So that's one way. And then we also facilitated like full ice power play penalty kill during practice for about 10-15 minutes on top of that. So we had a lot of reps with that. We've started to do kind of like a specialty video group with those 2 groups as well, to try to get into some of the nitty gritty off the ice, so that we don't have to spend so much ice time talking things through.
Got it. So I got one last question kind of about the hockey side of things before we get into recruiting, which is there are a lot of D3 schools. I believe it's by next year it'll be up at almost 80, something
Yes.
around the number. Like next year you're at like 79 now.
St.
So
Joe's adding, Roger Williams adding. Yeah, probably
yeah,
someone missing, but yep.
so which is awesome. Got a lot
Yep.
more women playing college hockey, which is phenomenal.
Yep.
But at the same time, there's only one national champion and
Yeah.
there's only one, conference champion. So
Right.
like, how do players and coaches stay motivated, in all these situations where only a handful really get to compete for a championship?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it goes back to like enjoying the process of it and just enjoying the sport in general. If you get too, um, basically like encompassed with the outcome, with like winning the championship, whether it be for the league or the NCAA, you're not going to appreciate like all the things that you're going through to get there. And then when you do get there, like you haven't enjoyed the process of it. So then you don't actually enjoy winning it, in my opinion. And so yeah, we're just really big on like we have a lot of fun at practice. Like I thought today was a great example of it. Like my group, the group today, like they were super focused, but within that, like if you watch, like they had a good time too. So trying to balance that out, do some games, keep things competitive. But overall, yeah, just enjoy it. Like remember why we're playing the game. And ultimately that's not to win the championship though. That'd be fun. Um, but to the same extent, like we all love hockey. We all want to enjoy the sport, and just stay involved in that team atmosphere.
Got it. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the recruiting side of things.
Sure.
So, as you saw in D1, it was a
Mhm.
highly accelerated recruiting cycle
Yeah.
for D1 players, with a significant majority of players committing basically by the middle of November,
Yeah.
many even by September and October. I'm curious what the impact was on from a Division 3 perspective. Did that move all of your timelines up because now players became realistic about, hey, maybe there isn't a spot for me at D1. Now I'm going to really focus on D3. Like, how do you think about it? And how did you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, when we go around as coaches and we obviously have some of these, especially, like within our league, I'm fairly tight with a few of the coaches in our league. And so we have very frank recruiting conversations. I talk to a bunch of my colleagues in D1 too, because I just have those relationships with them. And we had that conversation at national camp this summer too, where they're talking about, I don't know if this is a spoiler, but like decreasing the time between June 15th and August 1st, right? So at least like closing that window a little bit for the student athlete. And my only response to that is like, that sounds great, but let's not move things back so far. Because you would think it would be earlier for us, and there is a little bit of that, but also conversely, um, we have more student athletes or prospective student athletes who are holding out hope for that D1 spot. And so they're just collecting offers from D3 schools. Um, and so that's where it gets tough for us, as there is a little bit of that hierarchy that you mentioned or alluded to. And so that's where things get tough for us as Division 3 head coaches. There's a hierarchy in terms of like Division 1, and like different leagues in play there, and then there's a hierarchy in terms of Division 3 and leagues and teams in there. So obviously we're trying to rebuild some success here, and so trying to kind of like flirt with that line of like, hey, this kid's really good, but I might not know about if she can come to Suffolk or not until May. And if I wait that long, like who do I miss out on? And so it's getting hard for sure.
Got it. So I was going to ask this a little bit later, but you kind of talked about the hierarchy. Do you actually
Yeah.
segment players by like, okay, well, that player is clearly D1. We're,
Yes.
we're not even going to bother. There's
Yeah.
there's the okay, this is a bubble D1 D3 player. Then there's that kid is definitely a D3 player, and then there's
Mhm.
the D3 club player. Like I
Yeah.
don't know if they fit in. Like do you have them in those like 4 or 5 buckets?
I wouldn't say like so directly like that. Like I don't have a spreadsheet that has like those buckets listed out, but like you say a name and you're like, "Oh yeah, that kid's going to go D1." So like I don't need to email her. I don't need to talk to her coach. Like she's definitely a D1 kid. That being said, like I'm going after those bubble D1 kids because that's where I want to get to athletically. And so, I mean, I sent an email yesterday, got a response last night, which was awesome because the kid was like, "Hey, I have some D1 offers." And it's like, "Great. Like that's awesome. That's what you want to go down." I just like knowing. And so that's where a little bit of that like communication, that back and forth comes into play. So,
Got it. Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
So where do you scout? Because I looked at your roster. You only have one Minnesota player. And
Yeah.
obviously you have a smaller budget. You have less resources. You have less coaches.
Yeah.
So like where do you actually just go look for players?
The easy answer is all over. Obviously, recently it's been all the prep schools, and then the East Coast Wizards had their holiday tournament here. Stony Creek is the big one in September that we go to. I sent one of my I sent one of my assistant coaches out to NIT in Minnesota in October. I'll usually do one of the OS showcases over the summer. Um, I do a lot for USA Hockey in terms of like Eastern Select Camp, which is younger kids, but I think it's just good exposure. And I get to hang out with some of my prep school coaching friends. And then I'll do like New England District tryout. I'll do Southeast District tryout. I've done multi-district camp in the past out in Colorado, which has now kind of like segmented back out. And then obviously like I go to national camp pretty much every summer. So, um, yeah, that's a lot
What about what
all
about
over.
Beantown? What about Beantown? Because that's in your
Beantown,
backyard.
yeah, Beantown's a necessary evil, I call it.
Why? What does that mean?
There's so many kids that if you don't have just like a concrete list of people, you're gonna spend your time driving to rink, because it's kind of like there's so many kids, it gets a little bit watered down, and then the level of hockey isn't great. It's also like right in the middle of July, and so some kids have been off the ice for a month and a half and it's just rusty, and so you don't see you don't see kids with like their club teams that they've been playing with for anywhere from 2 to 4 to 6 months, kind of again like creating something. So it's it's a little bit, as I've just kind of alluded to again, like all over the place.
Got it. Got it. So, how often do you need to see a player to decide, at least from a hockey perspective, that they would be a fit? Obviously, from a culture and academic, different story. But how many times do you just need to watch a player to go, okay, yeah, that kid's good enough for my team?
I mean, I think that's player by player dependent. I mean, you could go to national camp and say like most everyone here would make my team better. Especially like I've worked the 16-17 camp the last couple of years. So, I mean, that's a high level of hockey right there. Most of those kids would either come here and blend in or they would be top players here. There are other kids where I need to go see them play a couple times, 3 times, anything like that. So, I would say probably at minimum, I like to see kids twice, just so you might see them play their best game ever, and everything's going right and they're doing well and their body language is great. And then you go see them again and they're not playing so well. And so, like, how do they battle through that adversity? And what does their body language look like? How are they as a teammate when they're not doing well?
Got it.
Some of
Got it.
those intangible things you get to see a little bit more.
All right. So, what does the timeline actually look like for D3, as in the current dynamic and the current
It's a great
environment?
question.
Yeah.
It's rolling. No, so that's where like again I'll go back to my time at Trinity as an assistant coach. The NESCACs usually finish a little bit earlier than everyone else, because most of those student athletes go early decision. So by mid-December, they're mostly done. I was talking to again one of my colleagues at an NESCAC yesterday or 2 days ago at the Wizards tournament, and she was like, "Oh yeah, we're done with 26." Where like I still I have 4 2026s committed, but I'm not offering anyone else, but I'm still waiting to hear back on decisions from anywhere from 4 to 5 people. So that could change the dynamic of the class. I could hear back from them tomorrow. I could hear back from them in 3 months. I just don't know.
Got
So
it. So
yeah.
you're where are you at with even thinking about 27s, or are you still just focused on 26s?
No, I'm definitely like as I watch the last month, maybe even this entire fall, I've started to really take notes on 2027s, because it comes pretty quick. And again, like I'm going after those kids that will have some options, hopefully. And so to try to get them to Suffolk when they're in and around this area is usually a little bit easier because I think it's important for them to see the campus, get to know the kids a little bit too if that's what they'd like to do. And so yeah, I've started to have some phone calls with 27s, and start to have some of those tours and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Not necessarily for your specific school, but are there a lot of 2027 commits at like the top programs?
I don't think so. Not for D3.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't heard of any 27s committed D3 yet.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It would be a
Up,
little early. You would start to see that this summer.
perfect.
Yeah.
So what advice would you have for, players who are kind of in your sweet spot of folks that, you're kind of looking for, and folks who may not have even considered Suffolk before, may not have even heard of Suffolk before,
Yeah.
but now they're, it might be on their radar.
Yeah, I think, we're a unique situation and a unique spot in being in Boston. I think UMass Boston's in Dorchester, so it's still Boston, but it's a little bit farther removed from like the downtown of the city. And so it kind of comes into play is either like you like the city and that environment and what you want to go to school in or you don't. And so to kind of do your homework and see if that's something that you'd be interested in. I think our product in terms of like what we put on the ice is really good. We're competing with some of the top end teams in the country, and so that's something that we're really excited about and proud about, especially from a development standpoint. And we're just trying to push the page forward. So we'll see kind of how the cookie crumbles, but ultimately I think it's a fun place to go to school and a fun place to play hockey.
No better place to go to school if you're into big cities than
Yeah.
Boston. I love
Awesome.
that town. So yeah,
Yeah.
and people should really go look on a map on where you are, and you really are in the heart
Just
of
in
Boston,
it.
right next to Boston
Yeah.
Commons. So Abby, I want to thank you so much for doing this. It was great learning about your two sport background, your
Yeah.
time playing, at Trinity. Obviously learning about the experiential learning at Suffolk, and obviously the hockey team, and
Yeah.
then really appreciate your insights on D3 recruiting.
Awesome, Ray. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
I want to thank Abby for coming on the podcast and sharing her insights on Suffolk University, playing D3 women's hockey, and how the D3 recruiting process works these days. You can connect with Abby on the Suffolk website or via her Champs app profile. Links to both are in the show notes.